Hi, everybody. It's me, Sam Osterhout, the executive producer here at Lincoln Square, and I'm joined by Mike Cortese, the Democratic candidate running for U.S. House in Tennessee's 5th District against everybody's favorite representative.
We got the swampiest representative in the country, my friend.
Yes, Andy
Yeah.
Ogles.
Yes.
Mike, you're a familiar face here. You're becoming a regular. We spoke last week about all kinds of things, and the conversation was so fun that I wanted to have you back. And in the interim between now and last week, a lot has happened.
Yes, it has. Yes, it has.
It's kind of remarkable, and I want to. We're going to talk. I want to talk about Jimmy Kimmel and government overreach into our freedom of speech. But first, I think we need to really lead off with what's happening in Memphis and what's about to happen in Memphis, because as Trump has threatened to send the National Guard troops into Chicago and other cities, it looks like it's actually going to happen in Memphis. So, one, can you just tell us where we stand? What's going on? What are you seeing down there?
Yeah, we are trying to get more information. The Trump administration has said the National Guard will be deployed in Memphis. Kim Jong Ogles wants to have it deployed in Memphis and Nashville as well. So he's just trying to keep his name in the news cycle. When asked for comment on it, the Trump administration and the president himself did not give any direction as to what the next step was. But the governor in Tennessee, Governor Lee, who's basically a bowl of Jello, has said that basically whatever the president wants, the president is going to get. And he said the National Guard will be deployed indefinitely, I believe was his last comment.
So let me ask you this. Why again? What's happening in Memphis that is warranting this? So let's talk about the stated premise and then the actual premise, because those are two different things.
They're two drastically different things. If anybody thinks that this is about crime, now Memphis has its challenges 100%. And there are things we could be doing to work with local, state, and federal governments to help attack that crime. We could be doing, there's other things we could be doing. But this does two things, in my opinion. One, it is a brutal attempt to intimidate people and also desensitize people and get them ready for the next nudge down the line. It's also an attempt to distract. And I think you see what's happening with the Epstein files, and they are trying desperately to keep those out of the news cycle. It's like, are they even worse than we think they're going to be, right? When they're going to these lengths to try to keep us off center and having that conversation.
Right.
There is a reason we separate the military from the police force in the United States, right? The military is made to fight enemies of the state. The police are designed to protect and serve the citizens and the residents of the cities. And when the military takes on both roles, the people start looking like enemies of the state. And that's a really scary place to be.
Yeah, I've been talking with Michael Fanone a lot lately, and he's going to be on our show Strategy Session tomorrow night with Rick Wilson and a couple of the guys. But we're talking about ICE has been it's the de facto law enforcement agency of the nation. It's also the most well-funded law enforcement agency the world has ever seen. Right? It is funded more broadly than most militaries on Earth, and we're seeing that sort of police state mentality. This, the mission for those officers in the street is not to keep some sort of order or peace. It feels like it's to stoke chaos and exert power. So this
Absolutely.
is unless I'm forgetting something, Tennessee is essentially the first red state that the National Guard is being sent into. How do you think that's going to play politically with the base in Tennessee?
It's one thing when you hear it, people are uncomfortable with it. I do think his base is going to respond well to it. And again, Memphis has some challenges, but challenges that can be addressed in much more appropriate ways, right?
Sure.
But the thing is, the closer you get to home with this, I know there's a lot of conservative business leaders in Nashville who don't want anything to do with this. They do not want this coming here. They know the Metro Nashville Police Department is doing its job. They know there's other ways to attack some of the problems we have, and they
Yep.
know this is not going to be helpful for anybody, right?
Right.
I mean, like who has chain of command? Like if they're not military police, they don't even have the ability to arrest. So what
No.
do they know what areas are high crime? Do they know what street corners they need to go to stop certain things? And what does this do long term? Sure, you have a presence there, right? You have a presence that's going to maybe dilute things for the moment, but what is this going to do long term? We do not want to live in a police state for the rest of our lives. That is contrary to everything this country was built upon. And there's other things that we could be doing in partnership with the federal and state governments to actually be creating a safer city to live in. We here in Nashville, one of the budget line items, we knew there's an issue with violent offenders getting lax bail conditions and bonds, right? So one thing we did, we realized magistrates and judges in Middle Tennessee did not have access to out-of-county records and out-of-state records for individuals who were in front of them. So they didn't have the full picture of what this individual had done. So they're getting very lax bonds and very lax bond conditions. So we put funding in our recent budget to attack that, right? So keeping violent offenders from getting back on the street, that's a great thing that we could do. This has nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with that. This is all show, and this is all for intimidation.
And look, I mean, you know, what you're talking about as a solution is coordination, right? And coordinating is never easy. Collaboration is not an easy task. And I feel like the National Guard troops who are milling about Washington, D.C. aren't doing fuck all, right? To the French, but like they're just standing around, right? So this feels like an optics issue, but an optics issue with real consequences for real people on the street. And I'm wondering, does Memphis? You know, you mentioned the governor is welcoming National Guard troops. What about the mayor of Memphis and business? And do you have any pulse on that?
City leaders are vehemently against this. They do not see this helping long term in any way. Like I said, you may get a quick reduction when they come there, but the thing is, this stokes fear. What happens when human beings are afraid and they feel they have nowhere else to go, right? Like in my opinion, this administration is looking for those types of fear responses to then start clamping down on people and start bringing the hammer down all of a sudden to really increase those intimidation factors, and then have a reason, then give themselves a reason to go even further.
Yeah, right. I want to just mention to the audience, if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I'll see if I can run a couple for Mike Cortez, put him on the spot a little bit. But we really love, I was talking about this earlier today on another live I was doing, that what we're building here on Substack and with us and with other Substackers and other content creators is a real community. And it feels like every time we do this, it feels like a bit of a roundtable, and it feels like a town hall in some kinds of ways. And that's a kind of a segue to the next topic, which is freedom of speech, right? Which is Kimmel, which is our government coercing companies to stifle speech. Let's set the table with this little clip.
Amendment. And let me tell you how it works. There's something called a talent-o-meter. It's a completely scientific instrument that is kept on the president's desk. And it tells the president when a performer's TQ, talent quotient, measured mostly by niceness to the president, goes below a certain level, at which point the FCC must be notified to threaten the acquisition prospects for billion-dollar mergers of network affiliates. These affiliates are then asked to give ultimatums to the even larger megacorporation that controls the flow of state-approved content, or the FCC can just choose to threaten those licenses directly. It's basic science.
It's actually quite horrifying.
It is.
What's happening? Since we last spoke, the world was already in a bit of chaos. I mean, it's 8 years of chaos, but nonetheless, so Jimmy Kimmel gets pushed out, and I don't see the right backing down from this. What's your take, and what are you seeing?
This is not North Korea. This is not China. This is the United States of America. The government has no right to tell us what to say. It has no right to punish us for what we say. And the fact that the government is making this move, the fact that Brendan Carr, the FCC commissioner, came out and said, we can do this the easy way or the hard way, that is such a blatant and gross overreach of government authority. I am seeing some members of the conservative community speaking out against this, and I hope there's more. But this is one of the most disgusting and scariest moves they've made, in my opinion, of the second administration, of the second term of this administration.
I think it's interesting to see, conservatives, some conservatives speaking out, and even Tucker Carlson coming out and saying this is a disaster. But the administration, any backing away from it is really tacit. It's really just not exactly a backing away. Do you feel like this is and that they're unleashing a strategy that they already had in place?
Oh, I do think that they had thought through this, and this was one of the levers of Project 2025 that they want to implement. But it also, right now, it's the only salient thing that's really taking away from the Epstein files. So I think they're seeing a lot of mileage with that. But it's also something that they were kind of planning on slowly implementing. And if you see what they do, what their strategy is, they nudge along one step at a time. They'll do a little bit. They'll take a step forward, take a half step back, take a step forward, take a half step back. And this I believe they planned on doing, but now they're seeing other returns because of it's distracting from the Epstein file. So they're going full bore into it. And that's a really, really scary place to be, because I tell you what, when a government gets to that stage, it's very, very difficult to roll it back. Very, very difficult to roll it back. But I do feel we're still in a position where we can do that. And I want to state this. This is not partisan. This is not partisan at all. We had self-proclaimed neo-Nazis in the chambers at the Metro Courthouse when we had a meeting, and there were some people in the gallery, and they were saying horrific things,
right?
Absolutely horrific things. And there were some people in the gallery who were asking the police officers to escort them out. I said, no, let them stay. I was like, they have not broken any rules, even though I disagree with everything they're saying on the deepest level. If we silence them, that opens the door for somebody to silence us. I was like, we have the right to free speech in this country, and we need to stand up for that. We need to stick up for that. And people need to remember the government has no right to tell you what to say and no right to punish you for what you say. And anyone who tells you otherwise, they do not have your best interest or the country's best interest at heart.
That's right. And I think, sunshine is the best antiseptic, they say, right? And, there's something to be said for allowing Nazis to speak, because every time they speak, everyone's stomach turns,
Absolutely.
And stifling that speech makes it feel like, well, what were they saying? Like, maybe there's a conspiracy. I have two questions, and maybe we'll tie them together somehow. But you mentioned it's my great skill is being very confusing in how I ask questions.
I love it. No, I love the vibe of our conversations.
I'm really into this. But so one, you mentioned a rollback and how to roll this back. It is, and this is one thing that's quite concerning to me. And I think, everyone ought to be concerned about it, that we're seeing these things erode. We're seeing everything from healthcare to, women's right to control their own bodies to even just a federal network of standard practices and laws and procedures, right? Like when you travel to a different state, suddenly you're in a different country, at least in terms of how you manage your own healthcare, right? Like if we're parsing this thing up, we're dividing up the whole country. So I think that's all concerning. I think we need to talk about it. But I think one thing that I keep thinking of is this will end at some point, and it could be 40 years from now. It could be 5 years from now. We need to be thinking about leadership moving forward, and we need to think about what is it that we're rebuilding and how. So I just want to ask you about that a little bit.
Absolutely.
What comes next? What comes next with this, and specifically with, say, freedom of speech?
Yeah, it's one, I mentioned this earlier, but it's people realizing this is not a partisan issue. When you have Jon Stewart, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, and Joe Rogan all bashing the same thing, this is an issue that touches all ends of the political spectrum. So when people realize that, when you realize it's not partisan, it's not left right, this is corruption versus the people.
Yeah.
And we need to band together to view it that way. We need to have people of good coming in good faith arguments. We need to get them in power. We need to get them in influential positions because the pendulum is going to swing back at some point, right? And I'm very, very bullish on the long term, on the long
Yeah,
term
me
vision
too.
for our country. I
Mhm.
am. I'm very bullish for that. But I do believe it's going to get much harder these next couple years, and maybe even potentially up to a decade, right? But we have to have people willing to stand up, have these conversations, and pull people together and make them realize this is not a partisan issue. This is a corruption versus the people issue. And when we have people trying to rip away our rights like they are the Chinese Communist Party, that is a story we need to tell, right? This is we cannot allow oppression like they have in North Korea. We cannot allow oppression like they have in China to take hold here. And the more people stand up, the more people speak out, and the more we reach across the aisle to our friends who also are disgusted with government overreach and the attack on free speech, we have to build those coalitions.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think coalition building is a huge part of this, and it's kind of why I was like talking about Lincoln Square and Midas and the
Absolutely.
Bulwark and all these outlets that are doing really incredible work. But really, what we're doing with our content is building coalition. Um, and just one more point about that. After this era, this period, the United States is not going to be the same ever. And I think that's one point that we all need to wake up to. But it could be better. You know, it, we could build a better country than we had before. Even okay. So to that end, uh, as someone who's running for office, what the hell is it like running in this environment? It must be harrowing, right?
The reason I'm bullish is because I'm having conversations on the ground, and I realize when you remove the partisanship from the message, you realize people really aren't that far apart on their daily wants and needs, right? So having those conversations makes me very bullish on the future. But I want people. Let me ask you this question, and ask your viewers as well. Do you want to wake up every single day with people in military uniforms outside your home? Do you want the government walking into your work and censoring you for something you said? Do you want the government do you want a government official in the room with you, your wife, your doctor, and your kids when you're making a medical decision for your wife or your kids? Do you think a government official in that room is going to make that decision any better? We have a belief in this country that freedom is the best path forward. We have a belief that we can make decisions for ourselves and that we have a country founded on that. And now we have this police state coming in, this overreach of government authority, just trying to stamp out those freedoms left and right. Is that a future that you want? Do you want the government making a decision for you behind closed doors? Do you want the government making every decision for you in your home? I don't. And when I talk to people on the ground here, Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, Independent, they don't want that either. And that's what gives me hope because I believe we can create a coalition and fight back against this and make sure we have a movement to stamp this government overreach out.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, the who would have thought that Democrats would be the party decrying the government overreach? It was always this Republican. What was it Reagan said? The worst words ever uttered was "I'm from the government and I'm here to help" or whatever. A lot of comments in the chat when you were asking if that's the world we want to live in. I have
Mhm.
hell no, F no, 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 and no. And I think there's something to that. And I think we know the world we don't want to live in, and I think getting to the world we do want to live in is an interesting thought experiment, and it must be something you're hearing a lot of on the campaign trail as you talk to people. And granted, it's still early in the campaign, but what is, you know, regardless of Trump and what's happening now,
Yeah.
clearly it has to be torn down. What kind of common grounds are you finding, other than what we don't want? What do people actually want?
People want a government that represents them. Left to right, across the board, people feel government does not represent them. They feel government is simply serving big money, and they feel they have no say. And it doesn't matter if they're, on WIC assistance or if they're in a multi-million-dollar home. They don't feel that their needs are being heard by the government. They don't feel that this government is working for them. And I've seen firsthand, as I told you before, the guy who held my seat before was the former chair of the Trump campaign in Tennessee.
Right.
I'm very popular in district because I show up for people, and I show people see and feel their tax dollars at work every day when I'm out in the community. And when people realize, oh, wow, this government's working for me, this representative is working for me, that changes the entire dynamic of the conversation. And I believe if we have representatives coming to the table, people trying to be representatives, and running for office and saying, this is what we need to do. We need to bring the power back to the people. We need to worry about what's happening on the ground and create a better path forward. That's the key to all of this.
Yeah. Yeah. And in having voices included, and it does feel like, to some degree, Trump is, nobody wants this. Nobody wants the troops in the street. It's not a thing that we all aspire to have, is this coercive force terrifying us every day, every day. Nobody was wildly unpopular, right?
Yeah. Do people want to live in North Korea? They do not. Do people want to live in China? They do not. They do not want to live with an oppressive regime like that. I think it's really important to think about, oh, darn, I lost my train of thought. It will come back to me though. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of moving in this direction of, and this is, I think a lot of people in the chat, and a lot of us think about this without really wanting to put word to it, but his polling sucks, right? Trump's polling is terrible. And, that's heartening for down ticket races, like your race. Anybody who's tied to MAGA and Trump could be in real trouble in 26. However, they're proceeding as if the polling just doesn't matter to them, right? They're not, in his first term, there was some moderation. There was some communication that he would moderate so that he could win a second term. Didn't work. The chaos was too much. This time feels different. Instead of moderating, he's sending troops into the streets.
Well, there's no guardrails. There's no guardrails anymore.
Yeah.
He had some pushback from the Republican Party. He had some pushback from the courts, and the courts are still pushing back to a certain level. But people have to understand there will be shenanigans in this upcoming election. And it's going to be really important that people get out to vote. I would actually, mail-in ballots are going to be important. I would actually say if you can get to the polls during early voting or on election day, make sure you do that. Getting to the polls is going to be absolutely crucial, because this is going to be our last shot to make sure that we can stop this roll towards authoritarianism. Because if we can retake the House, all of a sudden we have some legislative power to stop these things. And the one thing that we've seen, Democrats in power are very bad at using their soft power to stop that roll. So we as citizens need to get to the polls, and our get out the vote is going to be crucial.
And is that how you're thinking about this race going forward in terms of the shenanigans that are inevitably going to come up?
100%.
Essentially get to the polls.
It is. We are going to have a massive ground game. So we are going to really invest in making sure we are on the ground, getting in front of the people, staying in front of the people, talking to them about how can policy better their lives, and making sure that they have an opportunity to say, they have a path to getting that policy enacted, and just staying there and continuing to have that conversation and letting them know that this might be one of our last chances to actually halt this roll. Again, I'm very bullish on the long term, but we have to show up now. and getting to the polls and actually going out to the polls. Mail-in voting's great, but especially in Tennessee, I think if the federal government and Trump want to put a hamper on mail-in voting when you have Republican secretaries of state, I think they're going to try to. I think you're going to see those shenanigans, and we need to get out the vote is going to be crucial.
How do you prepare for that as candidate, other than messaging to voters?
You put your walking shoes on, you pound the pavement, my friend.
Yeah.
You get out there and you work and you work a little more, and you get in front of as many people as you possibly can. And the thing is, when you're out there talking to people, you find out what moves them. And across the board, left to right, like you and I, and this is, again, doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican, you and I, if we're normal people, real people, we don't have millions of dollars to lobby for policy that benefits us. We don't have dark money groups sending money down range to affect those votes, right? And people see that every single day. And that's what I leverage. I'm leveraging that frustration where people are like, this government is working for big money. It's not working for me. And if we continue to tell that story and we let them know, like, look, this is the last chance you're going to have to make your voice heard. And then if we don't, then all of a sudden, big money's going to roll for the next generation. Like, that's a really compelling story. And people are responding to that.
Yeah. I mean, it's harder and harder to ignore what's actually happening, no matter who you are in this country. Mike, I wanted to talk just a little bit about social media, because one thing that is, I love about your story is the pounding the pavement, and I think that there is something about putting your hand in another guy's hand and shaking it and looking him in the eye, and that builds, if not trust, tolerance, and that is patently absent from our national politics at the moment. How do you use social media as a candidate in these days, knowing that it is making us all sick?
It's necessary evil at this point. It does give you the opportunity to touch a lot of people in a very quick way, in a very consistent way. But I think we also have to be very cognizant and very consistent in telling the story. Like, look, this is not healthy, right? Human beings, like, there's an epidemic of loneliness happening now. It's because people are having all their interactions behind a screen. And one of the reasons I think there's so much vitriol in the country, and one of the reasons you have so much keyboard rage, is because people have this need. We have a need to be around people that we care about, whether it's family, whether it's friends. We need that social interaction. We're social beings, and we're not getting it through the screens. Like, I love our conversations. Sam, I'd way rather have a beer with you in person.
Yeah,
I would love that. I mean, social media is great to supplement, but and these video conferences are great to supplement, but they do not take over for the real thing. And we need to get people out in front of people, having conversations again together. And that was actually one of the reasons I was able to build so much trust in my last campaign. To your point, I was getting face to face with people. And I told my team, I was like, give me the most Republican houses on the list. I was like, I want to have a conversation with these people. And when you look somebody in the eye, it's very easy to tell if they're having a good faith conversation with you or not. And again, you get past these initial fear responses, the partisan fear mongering that you hear online, that you hear on cable news. All of a sudden, you realize we're really not that different, and there's a lot of ground to be covered when you agree on 80 to 90% of things. There really is.
Yeah, we all want the same things for our kids. We want healthy families, and we want to have a safe and protected home, and water that's drinkable and air that's breathable. That's not very controversial to say that, and I think it is. Yeah, what I love about rep races and local, and even more local races, is that you are representing an actual community. It's national politics is so abstract, right? Like,
you want to hear how lopsided some of the policies of the federal government are? I talked to a gentleman in district today, and he employs 750 people. 750 people. So it's a good sized business. It's a family business, 750 people they employ. He still feels like he's getting punched down on by the big players. right? Like it's still that lopsided where you have somebody that grew a small family business into a company like that. They still
Yeah.
feel they're being punched down on, and they still feel it's really hard to pull out a path forward.
I mean, yeah, we can talk more about media as well, like the move towards punching down. Like it does feel like Trump's moves are all about punching down.
Oh,
Right.
100%. And the thing is, they're pairing this with masculinity, and this pisses me off
Sure. Hmm.
because, like, men provide, men protect, men endure. Men do not punch down, and
No.
a lot of the basis for their arguments are based off their view of masculinity. And it's like, screw women, make your money, and just punch down on people. And that's not everybody, but there's a certain section of people who men who feel that way. And
Yeah.
my thing is, I'm like, look, I'm 80% Mr. Rogers, I'm 20% bare knuckle brawler. But I believe you need to embrace all of that, right? Like I believe
Sure.
one, respect women, go out and make your money, work hard, kick ass. But also when someone's down, give them a hand up,
Hmm.
right? Like that to me, that's what masculine is. It's like it's being able to accept all that and being confident enough to say, hey, look, um, I want to figure out what you're going through. I want to hear your story. Oh, you're down, dude. Let me see if I can help you out. I'm also going to work hard. But if you come after my family, I'm going to punch you in the mouth. Like we can wrap all that into one and say and understand that. And we're not leading that conversation. We're letting these people who men in America today, you know, they're coming out of school. They feel they have no edge. They feel they have no employment prospects. Earning potential has gone off a cliff. They feel they can't afford to start a family. They feel they have no purpose, right? And then they're getting pulled in by these weapons grade algorithms. And then these guys who are trying to leverage that with this toxic view of the world are just manipulating them. And I
Yeah.
think we need to be leading the conversation on no, man. This is a better path forward, right? Let's be mentors to these guys. Let's create a better conversation in society for what that looks like.
I agree, and I think that Trump modeling behavior is laughable, but but the idea that he's so he sees himself as this macho human being, but it is so weak to censor comedians who might make fun of you. It is the weakest, dumbest thing, and that story needs to come out. Right? You are so pathetic and weak that people can't even make jokes about you? Come on,
Yeah.
man.
I'm
That's
I'm so
unasinine.
macho, but I'm gonna start pearl clutching because they made like
Yeah.
all of a sudden like I can
Yeah.
take anything. I'm the big guy on the block, but all of a sudden, oh my gosh, they hurt my feelings. It's like what? Come
Pull
on,
their license. Make
come
them
on.
stop. Make them
Yeah,
stop. Yeah. Well, Mike Cortez, I really appreciate you coming back on. I would love to have you on again. Um,
yeah. Let's do it.
let's do it, man. And
We
everyone,
keep getting on subjects. I'm like, we could dig into that for like we go 30 minutes, 60 minutes on that. Like I feel
1,000%.
there's a lot of ground to cover.
What we need to do is just get the beer, set up a camera, and
Yeah.
stream that live. That would be a blast. I'll come to Nashville. I've never been. I really want to see it.
Done and done.
Awesome. Tell everyone where they can find you.
Yes, MikeForTennessee.com.
Excellent.
And if we can win in Tennessee, we can win anywhere. And I think we mentioned this before. Tennessee and Texas are the tip of the spear for the
Yep.
Trump campaign. So anytime they want to try something out legislatively, they come to Tennessee or Texas to do it. We talked about this last time. They recently voted to jail local officials for taking a vote on sanctuary policies. So up to 6 years in jail. So those are the things they're trying out here. We are building the blueprint where this is how you reach across the aisle. This is how you create momentum in these red and purple districts. So if we can win here, we can win anywhere. And that's the blueprint we're building.
Amazing. Well, thank you for joining. And I will see you and everyone in the chat next time.
Have a great day, guys.
Thanks all.